Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 27, I'll be tying a traditional red quill dry fly. So let's get started. We're tying the classic red quill dry fly. Place your hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is parallel with your tabletop. And next step is trying to find out where the wing is going to go. So I like to use my thread to find out the position of the wing. So I'm going to wrap my thread back to the center of the shank of the hook, right around there. And now I'm going to wrap back up toward the eye, half of what I just wrapped. And that's about right, right about there. There's where our wing's going to get set. That's the sweet spot. So first step is placing the wing in now. And the material we're going to use for that is it calls for natural lemon wood duck feather, the flank feather. So get rid of all that fuzzy stuff on the bottom, the downy fuzz. Just rip it off. And there's a usable feather right there. So I'm going to kind of cheat here and just slide my fingers up, pull the feather down, and it'll gather the fibers very nicely, as you can see. Now hold that in position, clip off the base of that feather, and there you go. There's our group for our wing. So we're going to determine our wing length next, and the wing length goes as follows. From right at the eye of the hook back to where the shank meets the bend. That's the length of your wing. Remember, the hook dictates to us fly tyers the correct material proportions. Just like, your shoe is put on your foot. Your foot is a certain size. We're dressing the hook with materials. That's the key there, guys. The key takeaway. So, measure your wing from the eye of the hook back to where the shank and the bend meet. That's our exact length. Place that in that sweet spot that we determined with our thread and lock it in. Now, pick up your excess and clip it off at an angle so that when you cover that up, it's a smoother transition than instead of just a drop off. Just like that. Now, pick up your wing material, start damming up some thread in front of it. Doing so will hold the wing up in position, or the bunch in position, like so. Now, what we got to do is separate this wing into equal bunches. And I'm going to kind of point the fly at the camera here. Just hopefully you can get a little bit better view. So separate the wing in equal bunches. Pull it apart. Pull them apart big time so that they stay apart. That's pretty close. And now, with our thread behind the wing, we're going to throw a wrap right in between. Boom. And now the thread is in the front of the wing. So now we're going to wrap a thread in between them going back. So we repeat this procedure a couple times, 2 or 3 times. We call it the figure 8 method. So we're figure 8ing thread in between the wings to hold them apart. So now the wings are apart and they look pretty good, as you could see. And we're going to pick them back again and wrap a couple wraps to lock in that figure 8 method. Do the same for the back. And there's a perfect set of wing, guys. Proportion to the hook. Remember, we're dressing the fly with correct proportions. We're dressing the hook, I'm sorry. So now, the next step is the tail. We're going to wrap our thread back to the tail, where the tail would go. So right where the shank and bend meet, that's where your tail is going to go. And for this tail, for this fly, it calls for a medium done hackle. But not just any hackle. The fiber length has got to be quite long. So when I fold this hackle over or bend it over, you'll see how long the fibers are. And we need that length. So to pull the tail correctly, we're going to draw down these fibers. Draw them down until they become perpendicular to the stem, just like so. They're getting there. There you go. There's a nice group. Yep. Now, we want to pull the tail in the direction that it's going in. The tail, these are the natural ends, so the natural ends are going to be out here somewhere. We wouldn't want to grab them from this side and then pull them and then having to switch them over, you'll make a mess out of the tail. So using the tips of my fingers, I'm going to grab the tips of the fibers very carefully and grab about a 1/2 inch worth. And again, this is like a medium done shade for this Red Quill dry fly. Oop, I missed them. They slipped right out of my fingers. Let me flip the feather over. Squeeze a little harder next time. Squeeze tight, pull the hackle. There we go. Gather those fibers, get that one long one out of the way. There's your perfect tail, guys. Now, I have that in my fingers. So we said that the wing is equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. Well, guess what? The tail is going to be the same length. Measure the shank of the hook, include the eye. I have that in between my fingers. Lock it in. So there's our tail. And wrap that excess, cover all this up, and kind of blend it in with that excess wing material. If there's a little bit of a divot there, as you could see, just kind of build up the thread a little bit. There we go. And smooth out that bump, or that you want that to be a nice smooth transition. All right, so now we have the tail and the wing. They're all proportioned to that hook. Now for the next part, the body. The body is made from a Rhode Island Red or dark ginger hackle, a long one. And what you got to do is you draw these fibers down and you strip off all these hackle fibers, just like so, right down. And the reason why we're using the Rhode Island Red is because the hackle stem here that I'm exposing is also reddish if you take a look, and it makes a great cool body. Now I probably couldn't just use this hackle right now for this fly, because I typically soak the stem, this whole complete stem, in water so that it's very flexible. So I've already prepared one and it's been soaked, and I'm going to soak it a little bit more with my saliva just in case. So you got the thick end in and the skinnier end. You want to tie the skinnier end in on the side of the shank of the hook, and clip off the excess. Make sure that there's no gap. You can see that gap there. I got to go back further with my thread. So just like so. There we go. And then return your thread up to about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch behind the wing. Now, very carefully, you're going to grab this quill and wrap it, and hopefully it won't split on us. So I'm pulling pretty hard, and you're going to work that all the way up the shank of the hook, just like that, hand over hand. And you're going to stop at that spot we talked about, that 1/16 of an inch or so, and secure it. That makes a great looking body. Nice red cast to it. Imitating the natural, pretty close. So the Red Quill is the male species, or the male of the Hendrickson. I'm going to also dress this quill with a little bit of head cement, and it'll really bring out the grain, so to speak, and you can see that really nicely now, I'm sure. And it gives a little bit of protection. So now we're going to let that dry for about 10 more seconds, and we're going to prepare our hackles. So our hackles also call for medium done. So I selected 2 hackles, medium done hackles, and I'm going to draw away all this downy fuzz to expose the stem a little bit more. There we go. There's one hackle, and there's the second hackle. Okay, so we have our 2 hackles, and notice they have a natural curve to them. I want them curving together like so, one laying right on top of the other, and just like that. I don't want them opposing, Because if they oppose each other, they're going to be like that. You don't want that. You want them lined up perfectly. Now, I didn't just select 2 hackles out of the blue. I measured the length of the hackle fibers. So, again, here we go. We measured the wing equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. The tail is the same thing. Well, guess what? The hackles are going to be pretty close. They're going to be, when I go to wrap this around the hook shank, you're going to see that this hackle will be just shy of the top of the wing here. So, in fact, the hackle fiber length for your 2 hackles that I'm going to tie in for your legs or the front of the traditional fly will also be the length of the shank of the hook, including the eye. So that's how we proportion materials to hooks, guys. The hook dictates to us fly tyers the correct material proportions. So with our hackles together and going in having the same curvature, we want to put them on the side of the hook and tie them in that way, not up and away, but down and over. So I'm going to take these 2 hackles, secure them right on the side of the fly, on the side of the hook shank, pull my wing out of the way, and I'm going to continue wrapping the excess stems up to the front without crowding the eye. The reason why I do that is because when I wrap this hackle in front of the wing, or behind the wing and in front of the wing, I want it to have the same height. If there's too much of a difference in height from the tie-down point, and if I just clipped it off, the excess off behind the wing, there would be a noticeable drop-off in the height of the hackle. So we're going to keep it all even. Now, that being said, grab your top hackle, holding the hackle with your hackle pliers perpendicular to the stem, and carefully begin wrapping the hackle. You start by the first wrap up against the body. The second wrap is between the first wrap and the wing. And third wrap is right up against the wing. Try not to catch too much of the wing as you're wrapping these. Hold your wing back. Your first wrap is wrapped directly up against the wing. Now, we're going to do we're going to chase each wrap of hackle with the bobbin, because I want to lock this baby in so it's a much stronger fly. Just like so. Lock it in secure it with 6 or 7 wraps. Clip off your excess. Now, there's your first hackle. Get the second one ready. Grab them perpendicular to the stem. Make sure your thread, let me start over. My thread's not in the right spot. It's got to sneak it in there up against the wing. Now I'm ready. Grab your hackle again, perpendicular to the stem. We're working on the second hackle now. The second hackle is used to fill in any gaps you missed with the first hackle. So, carefully find those gaps. There's 2 gaps I see, and they're both filled. Pull your wing back and wrap again, and also chase again with your bobbin, your thread from your bobbin. Fill that in, guys. It'll be a nice looking fly when it's done, I promise you. Okay, once that's secured, clip off your excess. Any fibers that don't cooperate, get rid of them. We have plenty there. Tie or not. I'm trying not to catch too many of these fibers in my knot. It's not an easy thing to do, but we pretty much succeeded. Like I said, anything that doesn't cooperate, get rid of. There's some back here. You can see 3 or 4 back here. Boom. Get rid of them. You're dressing up the fly. You want it to look good. You want the main group of hackle fibers to be together. Guys, that's looking pretty darn good. Get your head cement, cover your knot, look for any stray fibers that are not cooperating. I think that is looking pretty darn good. Let me just give that body another little coat there. Okay, there you have it. Let me just get that cleaned up there. There you have it, guys. Red Quill, traditional Red Quill, or the classic Red Quill dry fly. Thank you for joining me in this episode, and looking forward to seeing you in the next. Tight lines, guys.